Hey Steve, how's it going?
Good, Bethany. How are you today?
Pretty good. We thought it would be fun to have a little discussion about some of these hot topics you've been writing about recently. I know a big part of the focus has definitely been on the 3 minute rule, right? We've been writing our own blogs about that, submitting blogs to other publications. You were part of the webinar with Radio Inc. Podcast episodes. Everything's lately has really been very centered on this 3 minute rule as it should be because it's a big deal. So in that same theme, your most recent hot topics that I wanted to jump into and just ask you a little bit about today is called diving into the shallow end. You're not supposed to do that, right? Because you
No,
could get really hurt. What prompted you to write this particular piece in theme with the 3 minute rule?
I mean this is just a simple, almost a back to basics kind of primer. How do you dissect all this data? What are you looking at with the 3 minute rule? And that's what everybody wonders. What happened with the first month? So it was just a matter of going into TapScan or PD Advantage, whichever, or X Trends, whichever your preferred source is, and just diving in and looking at a 14 book trend, right? And looking at your station versus the market. What did Cume change in your demos? What day parts changed? Average persons, time spent listening. You want to just see how it changed from holiday to January and how it changed from January to January, just so you have a sense of what's going on in your market. We've talked about this, that the whole 3 minute change for January is all over the map as far as, there's no consistent. Everybody got 25%. No, everybody didn't get 25%. I said before, your mileage may vary. So this was just a matter of go in there, do some trend analysis, figure out, okay, in holiday, the market did this in mornings, I did this in mornings. I mean, the one side note that we're starting to see a lot of is from holiday to January, one of the big gainers is morning drive.
Yeah,
It's kind of, I wasn't expecting that. I just wasn't.
that's surprising, right? Did were you anticipating it might have been a different day part
Oh no,
or
that's the one thing I kind of, I was eyes wide open on this one because I think that was the whole point of the 3 minute rule is we don't know.
yeah.
We don't know where that listening is. I mean, Mark had a good point where maybe drive times would be more affected, as would weekends, because of the higher percentage of in car listening. And you're punching around, so that you can have
Right,
more.
you're flipping through more frequently.
Yeah,
Also, I'm thinking people like parents, right? If they're, transporting their kids to various activities and they may be getting in and out of the car
sure.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, whereas you're just you get in the car and you're driving for long periods of time, more in and out that could contribute to that as well.
I mean, if you're incredibly reflexive with all of Nielsen's programs, then you know how to do this. If you're not as familiar or not as well versed in it, it'll give you a good starting point what to look at, and it just start building that timeline and seeing where it's all going. Because at the end of the day, whatever changes are in your market, you want to make sure that your station outperforms those changes, right?
Yep,
So it's,
being on top of it. And
yeah,
that's sort of been the theme of this all along, right? And that we've talked about in other episodes of trying to get ahead. Before this change happened, it was talking about trying to get ahead of it. Now it's here. We've got 1 month of data, but still everybody's been saying, you've been saying it multiple times, be cautious, proceed, don't make any big changes or adjustments just based on this. We've really got to wait until we get to the March data being released, and then we'll, potentially be able to move. But even still have to be cautious.
well, yeah, pump the brakes. I mean, just keep in mind, you don't know what really affected it, right? I mean, I'm going to assume that some of the gains we've seen, especially in average quarter hour persons, has a lot to do with the 3 minute rule because we've seen a lot of gains in TSL more so than we have in Cume. So
That
that
would make
makes
sense. That makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
And Nielsen kind of told us that was going to happen, right? With a high percentage of 3 and 4 minute listening that are now being counted that weren't being counted before. I firmly expected TSL to go up, and we're seeing that.
Yeah.
What that means beyond that, again, we had seasonal changes, you got panel changes, you got stuff happening in your market. You may have had gone down because your biggest panelist left.
Yeah.
Or they may have gone up because bigger panels left and people talk about, oh, wow, the CHRs had a good January. Well, they often do because Christmas is over and they're a format that suffers
Yep.
with
Yep.
Christmas
Yep.
week. So, again, it's just another data point for you to sift through. But, the point of that blog was just here's a way to look at the numbers going forward and seeing how you're changing. That's it.
Thank you, as always, for your contributions. And we'll be back with another video going over a new topic here soon. Thanks, Steve. Take care.